Hello everyone, my name is Karen Brooke and my company is Ocean Education and I'm a partner at Dartpool and will be facilitating our e-learning discussions today. We're going to be exploring a fundamental shift in how sporting organisations can equitably operate and thrive, co-creation and co-production. This isn't just about working with people, it's about truly creating and producing together. Let's explore how this collaborative approach can build stronger and inclusive sporting communities. Firstly, we'll be setting the scene by looking at the sports and anti-racism landscape as it currently stands. We'll consider the challenges and the opportunities we face. Next, to ensure we're all speaking the same language, we'll clarify some useful terminology related to anti-racism within the sporting context. Then we'll delve into the power of collaboration by exploring the benefits of co-creation and co-production in tackling racism within sporting organisations. We'll look at why working together is so crucial. Following that, we'll outline the process of co-creation and co-production, providing a framework for how we can effectively involve stakeholders in developing and implementing anti-racism initiatives. We'll also consider what getting it right looks like. What are the tangible outcomes and characteristics of a truly inclusive and anti-racist sporting environment? To encourage some reflection, we have a brief reflective task to consider some of these ideas in more detail. Finally, to conclude with some key takeaways to summarise the main points we've discussed. Sport often serves as a powerful mirror, reflecting the societal values, inequalities and aspirations of the communities it exists within. Understanding the sports and anti-racism landscape in Wales involves recognising both the progress made and the persistent challenges within Welsh sporting communities. A pivotal report was published in 2021 by UK Sport, including contributions from Sport Wales, called Tackling Racism and Racial Inequality in Sport. It highlighted that systematic racism and inequalities due to ethnicity, nationality, religion and culture do exist, and this is unacceptable. The following action plan was put forward for sports organisation. Firstly, reviewing policies and procedures, which includes challenging racism, reviewing recruitment practices and supporting ongoing training on racism. Then aiming to improve representation, to increase representation of Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities at all levels of sport. In terms of workforce, they state there is a need to improve data collection on workforce ethnicity and cultural diversity and to identify and remove barriers for racialised people. Next, they consider insight. There is a need for more and better data on Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities in sport. They highlight the need for further analysis of data and exploring ways to get more granular data and developing a better understanding of the lived experiences of ethnically diverse groups. Finally, investment. The plan acknowledges that more investment is needed to reach all communities. The sports councils will work with communities to understand their needs and target investments accordingly. From a policy perspective, in Wales, the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan has a key priority to create inclusive sports environments that value the lived experiences of Black, Asian and minority ethnic staff, athletes and community members. The plan emphasises the importance of co-creation and co-production to ensure that everyone has a voice and a role in shaping the future of sport in Wales. Let's look at the areas with a co-production lens. In leadership, we consider inclusive anti-racist work environments These are working environments which create a foundation for meaningful co-creation and co-production, where a variety of perspectives are valued and included. We focus on increasing ethnic diversity at all levels, particularly in leadership teams, as diverse leadership teams are more likely to champion co-creation and ensure that the voices of under or misrepresented groups are heard. Looking at funding, the action point is that funding bodies are to ensure co-production is embedded in the development of funded projects so they are directly relevant. This highlights the importance of involving beneficiaries and stakeholders in the design and delivery of sports programs and organisational development. From a funding perspective, we need to support grassroots organisations, particularly those led by Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups, and work together within co-creation principles. Grassroots organisations often have deep community connections and can provide valuable insights into the needs and preferences of the communities they work, volunteer and live within. When celebrating diversity, the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan highlights community. The action point is to co-design opportunities with grassroots community-led organisations to encourage Black, Asian and ethnic minority individuals in expressing their creativity. This approach fosters a sense of ownership and ensures that programmes and resources are culturally appropriate and relevant. Within sports organisations, learning about cultural diversity can occur through building on existing educational programmes to include the stories, case studies of Black, Asian and minority ethnic people to promote cultural understanding and inclusivity. This knowledge can inform the development of more equitable and inclusive sports programmes and organisations. The principles of co-creation and co-production emphasise the importance of involving people, particularly those who are traditionally marginalised, racialised or under or misrepresented, in the design, development and delivery of sports programmes and initiatives. By embracing these principles, the sports sector can create more equitable, inclusive and effective programmes that meet the diverse needs of all community members. Currently, there are pockets of good practice happening in Wales, but we are very much at the start of this aspect of anti-racist development. Hopefully, this session will provide you with a good knowledge base to move forward with co-creation and co-production. We have discussed terminology used to describe people in our first introductory session. Please revisit this or view the session if you want to refresh your understanding. Today, let's look at the term lived/living experience of racism. At DARPL, we state that lived experiences of racism encompass the various forms of discrimination, prejudice and systemic barriers that individuals from marginalised ethnic groups encounter in their daily lives. These experiences can include overt racism, covert racism, institutional systemic racism, internalised racism. In contrast, lived and living experiences of anti-racism encompass the personal journeys, actions and commitments of individuals who actively work to dismantle racism and promote racial inequity. These experiences can include personal transformation, community collective action, allyship and intersectional advocacy. Let's clarify a few more terms. First, we have co-creation. Co-creation, at its heart, is about when individuals and communities actively participating producing ideas. Think of it as a shared creative process where different perspectives come together. It involves shared decision making and can be strategic in nature. Essentially, co-creation is often a crucial step towards co-production, laying the groundwork for more in-depth collaboration. It's about bringing key people to the table early on to generate ideas and shape the direction of initiatives. This is about valuing the input and perspectives of a wide range of stakeholders within our sporting communities here in Wales. Now let's move on to the related concept of co-production. Co-production is a particularly powerful form of collaboration. It's a collaborative process, specifically when working with people who have lived experience of the service or policy in question, rather than just any citizen. This means actively involving those who have first-hand experience of the issues we're trying to address, in our case, the realities of racism within sport. The goal of co-production is to develop new services, experiences, programs or initiatives that are truly relevant, effective and meet the needs of those who are most effective. It's about moving beyond simply consulting and truly partnering with individuals who have lived experience to create solutions together. I encourage you to check out and join the Co-Production Network for Wales, who offer briefings, training sessions, themed events, a connection platform for shared practice, and a collective voice that influence policy and decision making in Wales. Now we've discussed the principles and benefits of co-creation and co-production, but what does this actually look like in practice within the sporting landscape here in Wales? Firstly, it involves joint visioning. This means that we don't just have individual organisations or groups setting their own agendas in isolation. Instead, we work together to establish shared goals and objectives. This creates a common understanding and direction for our anti-racism efforts. Imagine a scenario where local sports clubs, community groups and the Welsh Sports Association come together to collectively define what an inclusive sporting environment should look like in Cardiff. That's joint visioning in action. Secondly, it's all about collective action. Co-creation and co-production means working together with stakeholders actively participating in the development and implementation of solutions. It's not just about one group dictating what needs to be done. It's about a shared responsibility and active involvement from everyone. Think about athletes from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds partnering with club management and being funded to design anti-racism training programs, or fans collaborating with their teams to develop inclusive matchday experiences. That's collective action. Thirdly, it's about resource sharing. Effective collaboration means leveraging the experience, knowledge, expertise and resources from different stakeholders. This leads to greater efficiency and a more impactful approach. For example, a local community organisation with expertise in anti-racism training could partner with a sports governing body to deliver workshops, or a university research team could share their findings to inform policy development within a club. This is resource sharing in action. In essence, co-creation and co-production in sport means moving away from a top-down approach and embracing a truly collaborative and participatory model. It's about building a shared ownership of the solutions and working together to create a more equitable and inclusive sporting environment. As we continue our discussion, we'll explore how we can foster these elements within our own organisations and communities. Let's consider the question, who truly benefits from embracing co-creation and co-production within our sporting organisations? The answer is quite broad, as this collaborative approach offers significant advantages for a wide range of stakeholders. Firstly, we see clear benefits for Black, Asian and minority ethnic members. Through co-creation and co-production, these individuals experience empowerment, gaining a genuine sense of ownership and control over decisions that directly impact their experiences within sport. They achieve increased and accurate representation, ensuring their voices are heard and their unique perspectives are actively considered in decision-making processes. This leads to improved experiences as they contribute to the development of resources and programs that are more relevant, inclusive and truly tailored to their needs and interests. Furthermore, their participation fosters skills development, providing valuable opportunities to gain new skills and knowledge through their active involvement in the co-creation process. Secondly, sports organisations themselves stand to gain significantly. By embracing this collaborative approach, they benefit from improved decision making, drawing upon the diverse perspectives and insights of Black, Asian and minority ethnic members, leading to more informed and more effective decisions. They also achieve increased relevance, developing programs and initiatives that are more relevant and appealing to Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities within their locality and beyond. This in turn can lead to an enhanced reputation as an inclusive and equitable organisation, fostering trust and attracting a wider range of participants and supporters. Moreover, they can tap into the innovation and creativity of Black, Asian and minority ethnic members to develop new and exciting programs and initiatives that might not have been conceived through a more colonised approach. Finally, the wider community also reaps the reward. Co-creation and co-production promotes increased diversity and inclusion, creating a more welcoming and equitable sports environment for all members of the community here in Wales. This collaborative spirit leads to enhanced community relations, building stronger relationships between the sports organisation and the surrounding Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. Ultimately, this contributes to improved community well-being by promoting physical activity and healthy lifestyles in a way that is truly accessible and meaningful for everyone. As we've seen, both individuals and organisations stand to gain, but the benefits of co-creation and co-production extend even further, creating a collective advantage. Firstly, we see improved decisions across the board. By bringing together a diverse range of perspectives, we gain a broader understanding of the needs and challenges within our sporting communities. This leads to better and more informed decisions that truly reflect the lived experiences of a wider group of people. Secondly, increased trust is a key outcome. When processes are transparent and inclusive, and when individuals feel their voices are genuinely heard, it builds trust between stakeholders and organisations. This is vital for fostering strong and lasting relationships within our sporting family. Thirdly, we achieve greater impact and outcomes. When stakeholders feel valued and their contributions are taken seriously, their engagement and input are more likely to lead to a positive impact with more relevant and meaningful outcomes for all. Finally, and perhaps more importantly, we cultivate a sense of belonging for all by creating an environment that is genuinely sensitive to the cultural needs and perspectives of Black, Asian and minority ethnic members, and by ensuring equal opportunities and access to resources and programs for everyone. we foster a true sense of belonging for all members of our sporting community. To effectively embark on this journey of co-creation and co-production, it can be incredibly helpful to utilise a structured approach and produce a framework for co-creation and co-production. Think of a framework as a roadmap, providing guidance and a clear structure to ensure our collaborative efforts are focused, inclusive, and ultimately successful. Here is a recent development of a charter for equitable and inclusive co-creation, as explored in a study by Mulvale and colleagues in the BMJ Open Medical Journal, highlighting the importance of having a clear set of guiding principles. A well-defined framework typically outlines the key stages and considerations involved in a co-creation process. It helps us to initiate the process in a clear and purposeful way, ensuring we have a shared understanding of the goals from the outset. Crucially, a framework guides us on how to work with stakeholders effectively, ensuring that diverse voices are heard and valued throughout the process. This is particularly important in ensuring we are truly inclusive of Black, Asian and minority ethnic members within our Welsh sporting communities. The framework then provides a structure for the creation phase, helping us to generate ideas and develop solutions collaboratively. It offers tools and methodologies to facilitate this shared creative process. It also guides us through the implementation stage, ensuring that the co-created solutions are put into practice in a considered and effective manner. Finally, a good framework emphasises the importance of evaluation, allowing us to assess the impact of our collaborative efforts and learn for future initiatives. By adopting a framework, we can avoid potential pitfalls, ensure a more equitable and transparent process, and ultimately increase the likelihood of achieving meaningful and sustainable outcomes in our anti-racism work. While there isn't one single magic framework, the key is to choose or adapt an approach that suits the specific needs and context of your organisation and the goals you are trying to achieve in Wales. The core principles, however, remain consistent: clear steps, inclusive co-creation and co-production, and a focus on shared ownership. Even when we have frameworks and co-production ideals, the implementation may not be as successful from an anti-racist perspective as we would like to think. I want to share some critical insights from this recent report, which focuses on the lived experiences of individuals from racialised backgrounds. It offers a stark but important perspective on the realities of collaboration. The findings highlight several key areas that we need to be accurately aware of as we strive to implement effective co-creation and co-production initiatives within our sporting organisations. Firstly, the report found that pervasive racism is a significant issue. It ranges from subtle microaggressions to more overt forms of discrimination within these collaborative spaces. Alarmingly, there is often a fundamental lack of understanding of systemic racism and white privilege, which hinders meaningful progress. Secondly, the report revealed the presence of fear and gaslighting. Individuals often experience fear in calling out racist behaviours due to potential negative repercussions, including being gaslighted or labelled as difficult or toxic. This fear unfortunately silences marginalised voices and perpetuates a cycle of harm. Thirdly, the report points to instances of tokenism and lack of action. Co-production spaces sometimes engage in tokenism, including racialised individuals for the sake of appearance rather than providing genuine opportunities for meaningful contribution. Furthermore, there's often a gap between discussing anti-racism and taking concrete action, with some organisations experiencing what the report terms decision paralysis. The report strongly emphasises the need for systemic change. It argues that anti-racism efforts must move beyond individual level training and actively address systemic issues and institutional white supremacy. Crucially, the report calls for equitable compensation, resources and support for racialised individuals involved in co-production, recognising the value of their lived experience and the emotional labour involved. The importance of safe spaces is also highlighted. Creating safe and supportive environments where racialised individuals can share their experiences without fear is paramount. This report suggests the value of sense-making workshops and affinity spaces for processing trauma and fostering meaningful dialogue. It's important to understand the methodology behind these findings. The report utilised a community reporting methodology, a qualitative approach that centres lived experiences through peer-to-peer dialogue interviews. Specifically, the project gathered 37 stories through dialogue interviews and employed methods like story curation and mobilisation to analyse the data and identify these key themes. Based on these findings, the report offers some crucial key recommendations for moving forward. Firstly, to acknowledge and address racism as a systemic issue within co-production. Secondly, to create safe and supportive environments for racialised individuals. Thirdly, to ensure equitable compensation and resources for their contributions. Fourthly, to move from rhetoric to concrete actions and systemic change. And finally, to implement ongoing anti-racism training and education. Overall, this report underscores the urgent need for co-production spaces to actively dismantle racist structures and practices and to create truly equitable and inclusive environments within our sporting landscape here in Wales. These insights provide a critical foundation for our discussion today as we explore how we can implement co-creation and co-production in a way that is truly equitable to and tackle racism effectively. So let's turn our attention to the how, a practical approach to making this a reality here in Cardiff and across Wales. Implementing effective co-creation requires a structured and thoughtful process. Today we'll outline some key steps to guide our collaborative efforts. Firstly, it starts with identifying key stakeholders and their needs and barriers. Secondly, building trust and relationships is absolutely fundamental. Co-creation thrives on trust. Then we must collaboratively establish clear goals and objectives. It's crucial that we don't impose goals, but rather work together to define what we want to achieve through our collaborative efforts in tackling racism. Effective communication and engagement are paramount. Open, honest and accessible communication is essential throughout the entire process. We must also provide an opportunity-rich supporting environment is key. We need to actively cultivate spaces and processes that are welcoming, inclusive and provide genuine opportunities for participation and contribution from all members of our sporting community here in Wales. And finally, we must continuously measure impact, evaluate and adapt programmes. Co-creation is not a one-off event, it's an ongoing process of learning and improvement. We need to regularly assess the impact of our collaborative initiatives, gather feedbacks and be willing to adapt our programmes based on what we learn. Our first crucial step in effective co-creation is to identify key stakeholders, the individual and groups who have a vested interest in the sport and anti-racism landscape. Understanding who these stakeholders are, their needs and potential barriers is fundamental to building truly inclusive and impactful collaborations. We can use a variety of methods to effectively identify these key partners. Firstly, brainstorming and SWOT analysis. Internally, we can gather key personnel within our sporting organisations, from management and coaches to athletes themselves, to identify potential stakeholders. Simultaneously, conducting a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, helps us to identify both internal and external factors that affect our organisation and, importantly, the individuals impacted by these factors. Secondly, stakeholder mapping. Tools like the Power Interest Grid are invaluable here. This helps us categorise stakeholders based on their level of power and their interest in our work. Those with high power and high interest are our key influencers and require close and proactive engagement. Stakeholders with high power but low interest need to be monitored and occasionally engaged. Those with low power but high interest should be kept informed and their concerns addressed. And those with low power and low interest require minimal engagement. Thirdly, surveys and questionnaires. We can gather valuable perspectives by distributing surveys to a wide range of individuals to understand their views on the organisation and its stakeholders. Focus groups with key stakeholder groups can also provide deeper and more nuanced insights. Fourthly, media monitoring and social media analysis. By tracking media coverage of your organisations, we can identify key stakeholders and understand their concerns as they are publicly discussed. Similarly, monitoring social media platforms helps us to identify key individuals, gauge public opinions, and understand their level of engagements. Fifthly, network analysis. We can map out the relationships between different stakeholders to identify key connections and influences within our networks. Leveraging these existing networks and relationships can help us identify and engage with new stakeholders we might not have considered initially. And finally, stakeholder workshops. Directly involving stakeholders through workshops provides a valuable opportunity to discuss their interests, concerns and expectations firsthand. This also allows for co-creation from the very beginning, involving stakeholders in shaping solutions and strategies. As we undertake this process, it's crucial to remember a few key things. Be inclusive, not tokenistic. Ensure that all relevant stakeholders, particularly those from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds, including Romani Gypsy, Roma, travellers and those of different faiths, are identified and considered. Use census data to understand your local, regional and national context. Be flexible. The process of identifying stakeholders is ongoing and should be adapted as our understanding evolves. Be transparent. Be open and transparent with stakeholders about how their input is being used and how it is shaping your work. Think about resources, budget and capacity when selecting your methodologies. Having identified our key stakeholders, the next crucial step is to understand the barriers and needs they face within the sport and anti-racism landscape here in Wales. We know that systemic racism has been identified as a significant barrier, and we must delve deeper into the specific manifestations of this and other challenges. One key area is racial bias. We recognise that affinity or explicit bias in coaching, selection processes and leadership within our Welsh sporting organisation can unfortunately hinder opportunities for Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals. This bias can manifest in subtle ways or more overtly, creating an uneven playing field. Related to this is the issue of lack of representation. The underrepresentation of Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals in leadership roles, coaching positions and media coverage can perpetuate harmful stereotypes and limit the visibility of their athletes and achievements. Insufficient representation at the leadership level, in particular, restricts opportunities and limits the diverse range of perspectives within our organisations. Furthermore, cultural barriers can create exclusionary environments. Differences in culture, language barriers, and a lack of culturally sensitive policies can make it difficult for individuals from a diverse range of backgrounds to feel welcomed, understood, and fully included in Welsh sport. We must also acknowledge the direct impact of discrimination and prejudice. Racial bias, microaggressions, and systemic racism itself create tangible barriers to participation, progress, and overall well-being within our sporting communities. Another critical area is access to resources. Limited access to quality coaching, facilities, and adequate funding can exacerbate existing inequalities, placing Black, Asian, and minority ethnic athletes at a disadvantage. Ensuring equitable access to these essential resources is paramount. To address these barriers and meet the needs of our stakeholders, we must consider several key actions. Firstly, addressing systemic racism requires concrete steps. This includes implementing robust policy changes and procedures that actively combat systemic racism within our sports organisation. It also demands accountability, holding individuals and organisations responsible for discriminatory practices. Mandatory diversity professional learning for all staff and volunteers on issues of race, ethnicity and bias is a vital component of this. Secondly, combating bias involves providing affinity bias professional learning to help individuals identify and address their own biases. Establishing mentorship programs to support Black, Asian and minority ethnic athletes and coaches, staff can provide crucial guidance and support. Moreover, promoting Black, Asian and minority ethnic role models in sport is essential for inspiration and visibility. Thirdly, increasing representation necessitates implementing inclusive recruitment and hiring practices to actively increase the representation of Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals in leadership and coaching roles across Welsh sport. Providing scholarships and grants to support Black, Asian and minority ethnic athletes at all levels can also help address financial barriers. Furthermore, increasing the visibility and media coverage of Black, Asian and minority ethnic athletes and their achievements is crucial for recognition and inspiration. Fourthly, overcoming cultural barriers requires cultural sensitivity training for staff and volunteers to enhance their awareness and understanding. Providing culturally appropriate facilities and amenities can make sporting environments more welcome. Building strong community engagement with Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities is essential to truly understand their specific needs and preferences. Fifthly, ensuring access to resources involves providing financial assistance to Black, Asian and minority ethnic athletes to cover essential expenses. Ensuring equitable access to quality facilities and equipment and providing access to high quality coaching and training opportunities are also critical. Finally, addressing microaggressions demands the implementation of a zero tolerance policy for these harmful behaviours. Creating open communication channels and safe spaces for Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals to report and discuss microaggressions is vital. Providing bystander intervention training to equip staff and volunteers with the skills to intervene when they witness microaggressions is also a key step alongside development disciplinary actions for the perpetrator and themselves. Without a foundation of trust and mutual respect, genuine collaboration is incredibly difficult to achieve. Therefore, our focus must be on fostering an environment built on these essential elements and a commitment to genuine collaboration. One of the most crucial elements in building trust is active listening. We must actively create a safe and inclusive space where individuals feel comfortable and empowered to share their experiences, perspectives and concerns without fear of judgment. This means truly hearing and valuing their voices. Furthermore, representation is paramount. We need to actively ensure that Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals are visibly represented on our governing bodies, committees and in all levels of decision making within our sporting organisations here in Wales. This visible representation sends a powerful message of inclusion and belonging. Closely linked to this is shared decision making. We must move beyond simply consulting and actively involve Black, Asian and minority ethnic stakeholders in decision making processes, from the development of policies to the allocation of resources, impacting their participation and experience. Another vital step is to develop culturally responsive policies. This requires a thorough and critical review of our existing policies and procedures to identify any potential biases or cultural insensitives that may exist. We must then actively develop culturally appropriate policies that genuinely address the unique needs, experiences and cultural contexts of Black, Asian and minority ethnic members within our Welsh sporting landscape. Having laid the groundwork of trust and relationships, the next crucial step in our co-creation journey is to collaboratively establish clear goals and objectives for our anti-racism work. This is not about imposing predetermined targets, but about working together to define what success looks like and what we aim to achieve collectively. This process begins with joint visioning. We need to create the time and space for all stakeholders to come together and articulate their aspirations for an inclusive and anti-racist sporting environment. This involves opening dialogue, active listening and a willingness to understand a diverse range of perspectives on what we want to achieve. Through this joint visioning, we work towards a shared vision. This shared vision becomes our guide, a common understanding of our desired future. It's a collective statement that unites us around a common purpose and provides a clear direction for our efforts. Let's take the example of developing culturally responsive policies within our sporting organisations. Instead of simply adopting generic policies, A collaborative approach would involve joint visioning sessions led by Black, Asian and minority ethnic members, community leaders and other stakeholders. In these sessions, we'd create the necessary time and space for open conversations about existing policies. We would ask questions like, do these policies truly reflect the needs and experiences of everyone in our community here, for example in Rhyl? Are there any cultural insensitive or biases embedded within them? Through this joint visioning, we would collectively articulate a shared vision for what truly inclusive and culturally responsive policies should look like within our Welsh sporting context. This might involve identifying specific cultural considerations, ensuring language accessibilities, or adapting processes to better reflect diverse cultural practices. By collaboratively establishing these goals and objectives, grounded in a shared vision, we ensure that our anti-racism initiatives are relevant, meaningful, and have the full support and ownership of the communities they are intended to serve. Having established our shared goals, the next element is effective communication and collective action. This is about putting our collaborative vision into practice. This involves collective action. Working together, stakeholders actively participate in the development and implementation of solutions. This means moving beyond simply discussing ideas and actively involving a diverse range of voices in shaping and putting our anti-racism strategies into action within our Welsh sporting organisations. It also means resource sharing. Leveraging the expertise, knowledge and resources from different stakeholders leads to greater efficiency and a more impactful approach. This could involve community groups sharing their cultural understanding, sporting bodies providing facilities, or individuals offering their lived experiences to inform our work. Crucially, we must establish open communication. This means creating and maintaining open and transparent communication channels that facilitate ongoing dialogue and provide opportunities for feedback from all stakeholders. This ensures that information flows freely and that everyone feels informed about progress and challenges. We must also prioritise voice and representation. Empowering all members of our sporting community to express their perspectives, needs and concerns is fundamental. This means actively seeking out and valuing a range of viewpoints and ensuring that everyone feels valued. Furthermore, working with local communities is required. Involving local communities in the planning and implementation of programmes increases ownership and sustainability. Community-led initiatives provide valuable opportunities for local residents to shape their own sporting experiences, ensuring that our efforts are truly relevant and rooted in the needs of the people. Empowering local communities to develop their own sport infrastructure and resources fosters a strong sense of pride and belonging, making our anti-racism work more deeply embedded within the fabric of our communities. We must create an opportunity-rich, supportive environment. This means actively fostering spaces and processes that are welcoming and provide genuine opportunities for participation and contribution from all members of our sporting community. One way we can achieve this is by leveraging technology. Online platforms can facilitate collaboration and knowledge sharing, connecting people across our Welsh sporting landscape. Digital tools can streamline processes and enable more efficient communication, making it easier for everyone to engage. Furthermore, data analysis can play a vital role in informing our decision making and tracking the impact of our co-creation initiatives, ensuring we are making progress and adapting where necessary. This environment must be characterised by collaborative decision making. This means actively involving and or recruiting Black, Asian and minority ethnic individuals in the planning, implementing and evaluating of our initiatives, ensuring their perspectives are central to the process and that decisions are truly representative. We must also prioritise capacity building. This involves providing targeted training and resources to support global majority staff and athletes within our organisation. Investing in their skills and development empowers individuals and strengthens our collective ability to drive change. Furthermore, offering mentorship and training opportunities for leaders across all levels helps to nurture talent and build a more diverse and inclusive leadership base. Finally, develop a leadership pipeline. We need to actively identify and nurture talent across all levels of the organisation, ensuring that there are clear pathways for individuals from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds to progress and take on leadership roles. This proactive approach ensures long-term representation and a truly inclusive leadership structure within our sporting bodies here in Wales. Our commitment doesn't end with implementation. It's an ongoing journey of learning and improvement. The final key step is to continuously measure impact, evaluate and adapt programmes to ensure our anti-racism efforts remain effective and relevant. As discussed, this process can be guided by a framework. Having a clear framework for our co-creation and co-production initiatives provides a structure for how we measure success and identify areas for improvement. It helps us to track progress against our collaboratively established goals and objectives. Regular consultation with stakeholders is required. We must constantly seek feedback from all involved, particularly Black, Asian and minority ethnic members, to ensure what is working well, what challenges remain, and how our programmes and organisations can be improved. This ongoing dialogue ensures that our efforts remain aligned with the lived experiences and needs of the community. We must establish clear accountability. We need to define who is responsible for implementing and monitoring our anti-racism initiatives and ensure that there are clear mechanisms for accountability within our sporting organisations. This fosters a sense of responsibility and commitment to achieving our goals. Regular reviews. We must periodically assess the effectiveness of our strategies, identify any unintended consequences, and critically evaluate whether we are achieving the desired impact in tackling racism within sport. Finally, sustaining our efforts is paramount. We need to build systems and practices that ensure our anti-racism work is not a one-off project, but an integral and ongoing part of the culture and operations of our sporting organisations across Wales. This involves embedding these principles into policies, procedures and long-term strategic plans. By consistently measuring our impact, actively seeking feedback through consultation, ensuring accountability, regularly reviewing our programmes and focusing on sustainability, we can ensure that our co-creation efforts are dynamic, responsive and ultimately drive meaningful and lasting change. Shifting the paradigm from doing to doing with, as we have discussed, the most effective approach in anti-racism is through genuine collaboration. This represents a fundamental shift in how we approach our work. Historically, and perhaps in some instances still today, the approach might be characterised by a doing to or a doing for mindset. Sometimes there's a tendency to coerce, to enforce policies or practices without genuine buy-in, or the focus might be on simply trying to educate others without necessarily involving those most affected in shaping the learning. Alternatively, the approach might involve doing for, simply informing stakeholders about decisions that have already been made, consulting with them in a limited way, or attempting to engage them in activities without truly valuing their input in the core design and implementation. While some feel these approaches may have their place, they often lead to limited impact and can fail to address the root causes of systemic issues. The true power lies in moving towards doing with, embracing co-creation and co-production. This signifies a fundamental change in our approach, where we actively involve stakeholders, particularly Black, Asian and minority ethnic members, as equal partners in shaping solutions and driving change. This shift from doing to or doing for to doing with is what increases participation and fosters a genuine sense of ownership and belonging within our sporting community. It's about valuing lived experience, sharing decision making, and working together to build a truly anti-racist and equitable future for sport. Now, as we move towards the end of our discussion, I'd like to invite you to take some time for a reflective task. Think about your own organisation, your experiences and the context of sport here in Cardiff and across Wales. Take a few moments to consider these questions individually or perhaps discuss them briefly with those around you. This reflection is an important step in translating the ideas we've discussed into tangible action. We have resources for you to record your thoughts and encourage you to send them into darpel@cardiffmet.ac.uk and or share with those around you. In conclusion, as we reflect on our discussion today, it's clear that successful co-creation and co-production in sport is not just a desirable ideal, but a tangible pathway. It requires a clear understanding of our goals, a commitment to ongoing communication that fosters open dialogue, and crucially, an unwavering commitment to inclusivity at every stage of the process. By actively embracing co-creation, our sporting organisations across Wales have the power to truly empower stakeholders, particularly Black, Asian and minority ethnic members, ensuring their lived experiences shapes the future of sport. This collaborative approach also unlocks the potential for innovation, leading to more creative and effective solutions to the challenges we face. Here are the references for you to delve deeper into the full version of the reference literature today. In addition, explore the case studies we have on the culture, heritage and sport aspect of the Darpel Virtual Campus to learn about how organisations in Wales have developed co-creation and co-production in their organisations. Thank you.